talent, treasure. Father Mike talked to us last week about the treasure part of stewardship. Today I wanted to talk to you a bit about the time and talent part. It matters, of course, that we offer our financial gifts, but that is truly only one part of the picture. Money matters in keeping the church going, but what good is it without people to use that money and offer themselves in service to the Lord's name? About 35 years ago, I came to San Antonio, and after a long dry spell from any kind of worship, God was speaking loudly to me. I needed to get my kids into church. It really didn't occur to me at the time that I probably needed it as much, if not more, than they did. I was invited to come to a small local Episcopal church, and on that first Sunday, I met a woman who is still a friend to this day, and she invited me to help her put coffee together and snacks for after the service. She introduced my 3 boys to children that were their age, and it allowed me to be useful rather than just standing alone in one corner of the room. I had no idea at that point, but that was the beginning of a faith journey that would ultimately lead me to attend seminary on the road to ordination to the priesthood. Money was really tight at that time for a young enlisted man with a wife and 3 children, so my financial support was pretty limited most of the time. But I was able to find ways to serve, and I gave of myself whenever the opportunity arose. I found new opportunities in everything, beginning as a first-time lector reading the lessons and ending as senior warden of the vestry. Everything in between, except the altar guild. I didn't have nerve enough for that. With every step and every new experience, I found myself in community with people from whom I learned and I grew. I learned over time that stewardship was and is a response to the gifts that we have been and continue to be given by God. God gives us the opportunity to serve in His name, not because He needs us to do anything in particular, but because it draws us closer into relationship with Him. We serve because we have first been served by Him. By the gift of Jesus' life, death, and resurrection, we are offered the chance to give a small bit of God's gifts back to Him. In today's gospel reading from Mark, we heard about Zebedee's son, James and John, the brothers who left their father and gave up their fishing business to follow Jesus. They traveled with and watched Jesus as He wandered around the countryside. He was teaching and healing, and they recognized in Him a leader who was worth following. We might anticipate that as 2 of the disciples, they would have had a better understanding of what was happening. The truth is, however, they were as confused as anyone, and they really anticipated Jesus was going to be a leader they could follow right up to the top. One day they found an opportunity to be alone with Jesus, and they pitched their idea. They asked Jesus to give them the prestige and the power that they hungered for by promising them a seat at His right and left sides. Jesus heard them out, and rather than scolding them for their selfish agenda, He once again spoke of what He knew was coming to Him, a painful and humiliating death. And still they did not understand. Their desires were the polar opposite of the servant ministry we are called to. Lest we think that they were the only disciples who were headed in the wrong direction, let's remember that the other 10 disciples got wind of what was afoot and were more than just a little bit miffed at James and John for their scheming. They likely were jealous of the plan and maybe a little unhappy at having been outfoxed at the moment. The prestige and the power that the brothers sought in the following of Jesus is something that we can find ourselves seeking today. Our culture teaches us over and over that the rich get richer, and success can be measured by the amount of power that any one person has. Money and success are not bad in and of themselves, but what is done with them says much about how we are following Jesus. St. Thomas has resources that are supporting our community in myriad ways, but those resources need people to carry them out. There are many opportunities listed on your website. When you get home today, take a moment and go to the home page and just look under ministries. You will find any number of opportunities, some of which may pique your interest a little, in becoming an active participant. There's even a link to contact someone to talk about it. Or I would bet that either Father Mike or Reverend Alley would be happy to talk with you about something that would be a good fit for you to become involved. Some years ago, I heard one of our diocese's past bishop suffragan, Bob Hibbs. He had a saying that I have held on to throughout the years: be blessed to be a blessing. In my experience, I have been blessed over and over, more and more, as I have spent time giving in the church. And I would suggest that as a thought to chew on yourselves in the days to come. Jesus himself had a different way of expressing success. It was more about offering oneself to those in need. He said, "Whoever would be the first among you must be a slave of all. For the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many." I can't think of a better way to recommend giving of yourself in his service. Amen.